yourself. I'm with you. So if we continue to trust and believe that God is with us through it all, we will be able to overcome. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Trusting God when things don't even look good, things look contrary, things don't, God have made a promise to you and you're like, but God, look, don't you see what they're doing? And God is like, yeah, I do. I need you to understand that God sees everything that you're going through. God sees the difficult times you're encountering. God sees the people who are saying all these things about you that aren't even true. God sees everything that you're encountering at this moment. He's trusting that you will be able to make it through because he's there with you. I think it's very important for us to understand that God sees it all. I was dealing with a situation today and I was thinking and I was texting a friend and then I remembered something. I remembered that God had already shown me this. And then in the midst of that thought, I said, oh, God, you see it all, right? You see it all. If we embrace it, God sees it all. God is allowing this to happen. Then we will be able to keep going because we'll stop focusing on why things aren't the way they were supposed to be. But we'll start saying, okay, God, what do you want me to learn from this? Okay, God, how should I interact with these people? If we start trusting in God to give us the insight, we will do so much better in the midst of these situations. We'll go through them faster because God will show us like, this isn't to defeat you, but this is to make you stronger. This isn't to make you feel bad about yourself, but this is to show you how powerful you are through me. This isn't to belittle you or make you seem like you're less worthy of my presence. No, it's showing you that you are worthy of me and you are worthy of your dreams and you are worthy. You see, we have to remember that we are worthy because of what God has told us, not because what the situation is predicting, that it's predicting to us what it should be. No, it's God. God makes the greatest difference in everything. In all encounters, it's God. In every situation, it's God. If we start trusting in God and stop looking at the situation, we will remove the power of the enemy from our life because all he does is take what we've seen and what we at, and he tries to contradict what God has said. And he tries to get us to think about the negative things that we're encountering. He doesn't want us to think about the goodness of God. He doesn't want us to see how God is bringing us out. He doesn't want us to see how God has blessed us through this situation and how we're blessing other people because they see us going through this and they see how we're holding up and we're trusting in God to deliver us. You see, we're focusing too much on the problems and not focusing on the solution. We're not focusing on the one who provides the solution. We're not focusing on our caretaker. We're not focusing on what God has told us to focus on. Every situation that you're in is to make you better, to make you stronger. And God, I know God put those examples in the Bible for us to stay encouraged so that we wouldn't feel like we're in this by ourselves, so that we won't feel like, oh, well, when God makes a promise, it happens instantaneously. Oh, no, you might want to check the Bible out. Grab you some scriptures and read. We're going to go over a few scriptures today, and we're going to talk about a few people who encountered situations that were very challenging. It's how you deal with those situations, how you grow through them, how you continue to trust in God in the middle of it that makes the greatest difference in the outcome, how quickly you go through the situation. How you will be able to encounter the situation, not feel so woe is me, not feel like you're downtrodden, not feel like you've been beaten and you will not overcome. Because when we trust in God, things change. When we trust in God and believe in him and see that it is he who makes the greatest difference, we're able to see ourselves through the situation. Amen, amen, amen. No matter how it looks, we got to trust in God. Trusting God even when the promise looks impossible. Come on now. We know that there are moments we God has shown us something. We're like, oh God, this didn't work out. Like, God, I thought it was going to be smooth sailing. Why are they coming up against me? Why am I have to go through this trial? Why am I have to deal with this tribulation? Why? And a lot of times God is saying it's for the betterment of you. So that when you get in that situation, you'll know how to interact with people. You won't think it's, oh, just you. You know, I did this on my own. God has to keep us humble because I know we are those individuals who God has shown up time and time and time again. And God will see us through every situation. But sometimes we forget how God has graciously blessed us And then when we see other people in a situation, we're quick to say, oh, they should be doing this, or, oh, they should be further along in life. No, God is giving you grace through this situation. God is expecting you to show grace to other people, not be judgmental, not put them down, because God will see everyone through in their own timing. They will have to go through this situation. You will have to go through the situation, and you have to trust in God in every moment and not give up. You see, Joseph, he trusted in God through a betrayal. He trusted in God when there was a delay. He had been promised by God in a dream that he was going to be someone remarkable, that he was going to make a difference, that he was going to be a ruler, that he was going to be in charge. And see, at that moment, he was out there, with his brothers. His brothers was shearing, was out in the wheat, dealing with the wheat. And, that was his job too. So how was he going to become a ruler? You see, a lot of times when we're in a situation, we see all the obstacles, but we don't focus on the dream or the promise that God has given us. We see the dream as something far-fetched and impossible, but God is saying, if you trust in me, it shall be possible, but I just need you to trust in me. Will you trust in him? You see, Joseph trusted God. He didn't give up. He didn't look at his situation and he said, you know what? I can't deal with this. God, you just lied to me. Nowhere in the Bible do we see where Joseph said he did not trust in God. He didn't go against God. He didn't say, oh, God is just full of it. Not once in the Bible do we say where Joseph said, this dream ain't happening. When he was dealing with a lot, he had received the dream, showing him that he was going to be in a big position. He was going to rise up to the top. He was going to be great, right? He had seen that dream, and instead of it immediately happening, he had to go through some things, right? He had to go through some things until the promise was fulfilled. Joseph was betrayed. Joseph was lied on. He was sold into slavery. He was falsely accused. He was even placed in prison. And he was still holding on to the dream that God had shown him. A lot of times in life, that's all we have to hold on. And you know what? That's a lot. A dream from God is far better than a lie from the enemy. But we have to trust in God and not listen to the enemy when he wants to tell us, oh, it's not working out for you, is it? Oh, look, I thought you said, you trusted in God. Look at this, what you're dealing with. Oh, you see how they just lying on you? You're not worried that God doesn't trust you in a position like that. Look where you came from, right? These are all noise and nonsense coming from the enemy. He's trying to serve you a steak on the top of a garbage can. You can't listen to him. You have to believe that your God is true. He will see you through. He will bring you out of that situation. We have to be like Joseph. Joseph did not become bitter in the midst of his situation. Instead, he remained faithful. He didn't give up. He didn't quit. He didn't turn away from God. He didn't doubt God's promise. He kept believing. If we look at Genesis 5:50 and 20, it says, but as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. You see, sometimes God gives us a promise, but the process looks completely opposite of the promise. It doesn't look like what God has said. It looks like it's a long way off. We have to go through some things. But when we go through those things, we have to know that as long as we trust in God, it's still God, and know that God is still working behind the scenes on our behalf. Things will get better. Things will get better. But you got to trust him. Trust him even when you're treated unfairly. I'm sure you could think of a lot of times in your life when you said, God, this isn't fair. God, why is this happening like this? God, I've done the right thing, and these people aren't doing the right thing. And then they seem like they're being elevated, and I'm being pushed down and trampled over. God is saying, don't worry about that. Come to me with your offenses. Because if you start talking to the people in the office, things are going to get kind of awkward. God is saying you have to believe in me and you have to trust in me. Think about David. He was anointed to be the king. He was anointed to be the king. He was anointed because God had told them to anoint him, David, as a new king. What happened to David? He was chased even after being anointed. 1 Samuel reminds us that David was anointed to become king, yet after receiving the promise, he faced years of hardship. He was mistreated. Saul hunted him down to pursue him, to kill him. He had done nothing wrong, but he was chased by a king in pursuit to destroy his dream that God had given him. And in that moment of being chased, David could have took matters into his own hands. He could have said, you know what? I ain't got to take this, Saul. Let me go and knock you on out. This will be easy for me to do. Because David was a warrior. He could have taken Saul out. He could have pushed himself into the position of being king much sooner. But he didn't do that. He listened to God, he trusted in God, and he knew that he didn't have to force the promise because God was going to bring the promise to pass. If we look at 1 Samuel 24:6, it states, and he said unto his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed. You see, David recognized his position. David recognized God's position in his life. And David recognized who he was. And he knew that he could not go against what God would have him do. He knew that God did not want him to kill Saul. So he continued to walk and understand that God is the one in position and power to bring the dream to pass because God was the one who allowed him to be anointed. Amen. We have to be patient in these moments when God has shown us the dream, when God has shown us the promise. We have to believe in God and know that the greatness that God has promised to us is coming to pass if we remain faithful while waiting. Don't jump the gun. Don't try to push things into action before time. Don't try to make things be when it's not the season for it to be. Just believe in God and know that he's working it out for you. Even when you feel like you're suffering and you're not understanding why. Know that God is, will, and can take care of you. Think about Job. Job went through a lot, but he refused to curse God. His children had died. His house had burned down. His friends were leaving him. His wife even said, you know what? Why don't you just curse God and die and just call it a day, right? Even those he loved was like giving him this advice and he's like, ooh, no, that's not going to be the advice I'm taking. So you have to be mindful of the advice you take, especially when you're going through a situation, when you're going through a storm, when you're trying to figure things out and God is saying, listen for my voice. Because there'll be a lot of people who want to give you advice during this time. It's what you allow yourself to receive that makes the difference. You see, Job refused to curse God and die. Job shows us a man who lost his children, his money, his health, because he even got sick. He wasn't even comfortable anymore because his friends were giving him a hard time. His wife was giving him a hard time. His kids were gone. You know, can you imagine the sorrow in his heart when he lost his children? Some of us, it could be the money. When we lose the money, we like, whoa, wait, what's up, God? Right? You lose a child, that's heartbreaking. He lost more than one child. He lost his children in the midst of everything else that he was enduring. But if we look at Job 2:9, he said, then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God and shall not receive evil? In other words, we just going to trust God during a good time. And then when a hard time comes, we're going to be like, oh yeah, I don't want to have nothing to do with you, God. Because, you know, you ain't making it happen like you should be making it happen for me. You're not doing what you're supposed to do for me. God is saying you have to understand that there will be moments when you will have to go through a trial, but you have to trust in God in the midst of that. Know that he's going to hold your hand. Know that he's going to help you through. Know that he's going to see you make it through it. But you got to believe and trust in him and not trust in your own self and believe that you can make it work out for yourself. You see, Job teaches us that faith is not only trusting in God when life is good, it's trusting in him when things seem challenging, when life starts to hurt. It's keeping the faith when even when you're suffering and enduring a challenge in your life. Because we know that when we trust in God, that's how we overcome. Believing in him, allowing him to work it out for us, that's how we make it through. We can't allow the enemy to continuously speak in our ear and try to tell us, oh, this is why you're going through it. This is what's going to happen next. I know you've been in a situation where you start thinking about all the bad things that's going to happen, all the bad things that are going to happen. And then when the moment comes, when you go to the office, when the situation presents itself, it's nothing that you've been thinking about. But you allow worry to come in your life and disrupt your peace when God tells us not to worry. See, when we're trusting in God, we can't allow worry to overpower us. We can't allow the situation to look so grim and to present to us the worst possible and start to believe in the presentation of the enemy about how things are going to be without trusting in God and knowing that he's going to work it out for us. There's power in trusting in God. Keeping the faith is the greatest difference. The enemy, he wants us to become overwhelmed by our situation. He wants us to feel discouraged by delays and defeated by the trials. But it's what we do in these moments that make the greatest difference. God calls us to walk by faith and not by sight. Don't look at the situation and say, ooh, yeah, this is rough right here. I don't think I'm going to make it. God is saying that's when you should trust in me and not in yourself. This is how you build your faith up in me, by trusting in me, not believing in the situation and the circumstances that are presented to you in the midst of this challenging moment. Believing in God beyond the situation is empowering because it not only impacts you, but it impacts everybody that's connected to you, everybody that's observing you. Believe in God's power. Trust in God's presence. Know that he will work it out for you. Are you going to trust him? Are you going to believe in his power when challenges come? Or will you allow the circumstances to dictate what your outcome should be? Don't listen to the noise that the enemy wants to present to you, because your circumstances don't dictate your faith unless you allow them to. Don't become overwhelmed by the situation, but continue to follow God. Pray, believe, and know that he will stand by his word. He will keep his promises that he's made to you. He will see you through when you walk by faith and not by sight. Are you willing to trust him? 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. In other words, whatever this situation is looking like, this situation is situating, and I'm not going to allow this situation to predict how I'm going to trust in my God. This situation doesn't predict how much faith I'm going to have in my God. This situation doesn't stand a chance against my God, because I know my God will see me through. That has to be our mindset. We have to know that God will see us through in the midst of the situation. We have to believe in God and not doubt. We have to walk by faith. We have to stay encouraged. Just like when we walking in faith, when we get up and we start walking, we take one step, we take the next step, we take the next step. That is the way we should walk in faith. Situations we have to deal with when we're going uphill, if we exercising, we're running 3 miles, the last little half a mile is going to be a little bit rough on us, right? Especially if we got to go uphill, when we're dealing with that situation, we're riding the bicycle, we're trying to go up the hill. It's a little bit tough. But we know if we continue to go on down the road, we'll get to our destination. Are you willing to go down the road trusting in God and allowing the great I am to empower and impact you? Allowing the great I am to guide you. Allowing the great I am to be present in your life and to show you how trusting in him impacts your life. Not only your life, but those are connected to you. Will you trust in the great I am? Will you believe in his power and his presence to help you overcome? Will you understand that God sees everything and he's asking us to trust in him and to lean on him for understanding and not on our friends or the situation? You see, we have to remember God sees everything. God hears everything. God knows everything. So he sees every tear, every betrayal, every delay, and every unanswered question. He knows about it. And nothing catches him by surprise. We have to believe that God knows. We have to walk in knowing that God knows. God sees the situation. Even when we don't understand what's going on, even when we don't understand what God is doing, we must trust his plan for our lives and know that his plan is for the good of us. It's not to destroy us, but it's to help us through. Our faith during the difficult times makes the greatest difference. It is important because it reveals whether we truly trust in God and we believe that God is still in control, or if we doubt his power, his presence, and his love for us. That's why we need to continue to walk in faith. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Will you trust him? Will you lean on him for our understanding? Will you know in your heart that he's working it out, that his plan is greater than our understanding, that his plan is the way? Even though we don't know all the intricate details, God's plan is far better than anything that we can come up with. And we must trust him in the midst of it all. Believe that he knows and he will and he shall work it out for us. Are you willing to trust God? Are you willing to follow his plan for your life and know that he's working out things for you? He is. You see, we have to remember, Joseph trusted God in betrayal. David trusted God while being hunted and pursued by a king. Job trusted God in the midst of his suffering when he lost everything. And you? Will you trust God in the midst of your situation? I'm not discrediting your situation. I'm not saying it's less than anybody else's situation. I'm not saying less than Joseph or David's or Job. But what I am saying is there are examples on how we should trust in God, how we should live our life believing that God is working out things on our behalf. Will you trust God? Because see, your situation might look contrary to what God has shown you he's going to do in your life. Just like their situation looked contrary. It didn't look like it was going to work out like God had shown them. But they kept the faith, and God kept his promise. They remained faithful to God, and God remained faithful to them through it all. When trials come, don't let the situation predict to you how you should respond. Respond by trusting in God and believing in him. Keep your faith and stand on God's promises that he's made to you. Trust that God is working even when you cannot see him. And remember Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. So no matter what the situation is, no matter how challenging things might be right now, no matter what you're enduring, just see it as an opportunity for God to work through you, an opportunity for you to trust in God. See it as an opportunity for you to be prepared when God puts you in a position where he's promised you that he's going to take you. Don't look at it as resistance, as things are coming up against you that God is just saying he doesn't even care about you. That's not how God operates. God operates in love. And in everything that you're enduring, in every challenge you're encountering, in every situation that is presenting itself to you, know that God is working it out for you. Know that God is never going to leave you. God is never going to betray you. Know that God is standing on his promises that he has made to you. The thing that you must do, the thing that I must do, is trust in God through it all. Believe in his power and his presence. And know that everything, and I do mean everything, is going to be all right. Because God will fulfill his promise in your life when we keep the faith and keep trusting in him and not allow the circumstances to predict to us what the outcome should be. I'm a trust in God. Are you? Are you willing to trust in God beyond this situation? Are you willing to follow his path? Are you willing to allow God's presence to operate in your life, to be a light unto others who might be dealing with a similar situation, yet you do not know? They're looking and watching and observing how you're responding. And that your response can empower them to continue to walk knowing that God will see them through. Will you allow God's light to shine in you? Will you be a light to others in the midst of a challenging situation? Will you allow God to comfort you and to show you the way? God is, and he can, and he will provide for you. When you trust in his power, when you believe in his presence, and when you allow God to operate in your life. Are you willing to allow God to operate in your life? Are you willing to just stand and say, God, what do you want me to do next? How do you want me to proceed? Shall I remain silent? And a lot of times he is telling us to remain silent. What should I do? When was the last time you were in a situation and you asked God, what should you do? And then you trusted God to give you a response. And you waited on God to give you a response. And you reacted in the way that God had directed you to react. Sure, we are going to make mistakes. We're all going to make decisions that we shouldn't have made. But when we recognize that we made a decision that doesn't line up with God's word, ask God for forgiveness, and he will forgive you. Ask God to show you the way, and he will show you the way. Be mindful and be prayerful in the midst of this situation that you're dealing with, and walk in knowing that God is covering you. Believe in his power and his presence, and know that everything, and I do mean everything, is going to be all right. Until next week, Keep trusting in God. Keep believing in his plan. Keep knowing that God